Hello and welcome back to the Concept Checkup. The point of Concept Checkup is to dive into the Warframe forums, look for a community-made Warframe concept, and talk about it. For the purpose of Concept Checkup, I will use my custom-built evaluating method known as AS. Without further ado, let's begin the checkup. For today's checkup we have Joule, the energy Warframe. Joule was created by King Firejet on the Warframe forums, who designed the previously covered Flux Warframe. Joule is intended to be an offensive and defensive support frame, almost like a mixture of Harrow and Oberon but without the ability to heal. Joule possesses low health, above average energy capacity, below average armor, average shield capacity, and an above average sprint speed. Obviously with the numbers presented, Joule is made for avoiding damage, which is made easier thanks to his naturally high run speed. Joule currently does not possess a passive, so I'll just jump into his kit. Joule's first ability is Conversion. Joule fires a laser to a singular target, dealing a flat 250 damage. If the target dies, they drop an energy orb. For a first ability, 250 damage is rather low. For comparison, 250 damage is exactly the same as an unmodded Limbo Banish, or Excalibur's /dash. However, Banish and /dash make up for it because Banish can affect multiple enemies with a single cast, and /dash doubles as a movement ability which can chain to enemies. Because Conversion is a single target ability with a low flat amount of damage, it just comes across as bad, especially considering that the energy orbit can spawn relies on enemies to die, which they probably won't outside of level 25. To fix this, I would suggest that Conversion be changed from a singular target ability to a multi-target piercing laser. I would give Conversion the ability to damage all enemies it passes through, and with each enemy it passes through, make it deal additional damage, so the first enemy hit would take 250, the second enemy hit would take 500 damage, the third enemy hit would take 750 damage, and so on. In other words, make Conversion behave more like this. Joule's second ability is Refractor. Upon activation, Joule becomes temporarily immune to weapon fire and knockdown effects, at the cost of losing the ability to use his melee weapon and still being vulnerable to other procs such as Toxin and Fire. Refractor is absurdly strong. While the base duration is only 9 seconds, this can still be affected by mods. Consider also that Refractor allows Joule to basically ignore enemies for a duration, even though he can still be damaged by procs such as Slash and Toxin. While he can technically still be damaged during Refractor by being affected by enemy procs, Joule can counter this problem by simply equipping Rapid Resilience. This would cut down the potential damage that Joule would take during Refractor, meaning that Joule would basically have a God mode switch for a second ability, and so long as he has energy available, he can keep Refractor activated. This is either a really good second ability or a really busted second ability. I honestly can't decide which it is. Joule's third ability is Mirror Flux. Joule creates a temporary protective dome that reflects all incoming enemy damage, and sets enemies that pass through the dome on fire. Mirror Flux is essentially just a better version of Frost's Snow Globe. While it's true that Mirror Flux has a duration while Snow Globe does not, Mirror Flux lacks health of its own and is capable of reflecting all enemy damage. Meanwhile Snow Globe has health that can be worn down by enemies and isn't capable of reflecting enemy damage. Mirror Flux is also capable of providing minor CC by setting enemies that walk into Mirror Flux on fire. Enemies that are set on fire flail around for a few seconds, making them very briefly open to being killed for free. Unless Mirror Flux has a short range, I would cut Mirror Flux's base duration by 50% in order to compensate for basically being a better Snow Globe. Joule's fourth ability is Tempest Blast. Joule charges himself and then creates an explosion, dealing 1000 damage to all nearby enemies, while also blinding enemies that are not in the blast radius. 1000 seems rather low for a fourth ability, so I would suggest changing Tempest Blast to behave more like a channeling ability. In other words, give Joule the ability to increase the damage and range of Tempest Blast by holding down the 4 button. Charging Tempest Blast would of course drain energy just like with any other channeled ability, but it would pay off by providing higher damage and range on the ability itself. Plus, it would give players the feeling of charging a Spirit Bomb. With that aside, here are Joule's scores. Joule feels a bit weird because his entire kit is either lackluster or incredibly powerful. His base stats appear to be okay for the most part, but the biggest issue Joule has is his design sort of borrows other frames' abilities and makes them better in some way, making him feel like a mishmash of several frames, but better. For my personal thoughts, Joule needs to have his abilities buffed and tweaked, except for Refractor. Besides needing a passive and buffs to his first and fourth abilities, Joule absolutely needs a nerf to his second ability and some number tweaking to his third, otherwise I would without a doubt call Joule an overpowered concept. Thank you for watching.